Fingers crossed.
I'm seeing meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Oh, yeah? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Oh, yeah, it's going. It's happening. Excellent. So here we are. Carolyn,
We
wait,
made it.
are we sure it's happening? Oh, yeah, there it is. Yes, there it is. Popped up live. Okay, excellent. We made it. This is my first go round at doing this. I don't know if you knew this, but you're my number one ever in the history of the Breaking Ordinary Andy Petronic podcast, Whole Life podcast. Your episode is the number one downloaded of all time.
No way.
Yes, yeah.
That's amazing. I feel like I don't even know what to do. Like you just made my best pandemic day.
I mean, that's been fantastic. I mean, it's not like Joe Rogan's podcast, but it's Andy Petronic's podcast. So
hey, listen, I'm a bigger Andy Petronic fan, just so you know. Big time.
Thank you.
Of course.
So I wanted to have you on because these are tumultuous times, and you're in the business of helping lead people through good times and bad times. You know, like it's not always like this.
Right.
Thank God. But it is right now. And, you know, while it's not the only thing that people want to hear about or talk about, there seems to me to be an underlying current that in spite of anything else that might magical or great or awesome that might be happening as a result of this, there's an underlying current. At least that's how I'm experiencing a lot of the stuff going on in the world today that's unnormal, that makes me feel like my footing's off and I can't quite balance. And I just wanted to talk to you about how you're guiding your people and the people you coach and lead through this, as you know, leader of your school, as leader of your clients, as mom, as you know. Yeah. So
yeah.
What are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
Yeah, what am I thinking? Well, I'm thinking a lot of things, but I appreciate your questions. And I think most importantly, I have to say, like, let me start with how I'm leading myself, right? Because I can't lead others if I don't lead myself very well. And for me, Andy, like you, a lot of my foundation for how I relate to all of this is from my master's degree in spiritual psychology at the University of Santa Monica. So, you know, I'm always thinking about how I relate to the issue is the issue. Always. And that's true regardless of the event. How I relate to the pandemic is the issue, not necessarily the pandemic itself. How I relate to my best friend and business partner dying from cancer is the issue. How I relate to it. And that includes having enormous compassion for myself, right? When I was walking through that, it wasn't like that was easy. I mean, to me, I look at the pandemic and I look at walking through that and I think, well, you know, both of those events were huge and are huge in my life. And at the University of Santa Monica, one of the things that is often talked about that I know you remember is that our internal state is really where true safety is. So if I'm looking to the outside world to like, oh God, that's where safety comes from, now's not a good time. Right? Because if we open the news, if we look at anything, our footing is going to feel really unsure, like you said, because what the world is looking like on the outside is, you know, for many scary and dangerous. And I don't want to diminish that. And my internal environment is always available to me. If I close my eyes, I mean, I know you talk about meditating a lot in the Whole Life Challenge. If I close my eyes and I go inside, there is a place in there where nothing can be touched, right? And the days that I don't look at the news are really different than the days I do right now. You know, if I wait to look at the news, if my day starts between self-care, exercise, clients, and I feel the difference right now. As soon as I look at the news, I can feel myself start to be like, oh, and then I'm like, oh, whoa, whoa. So I'm on a news diet right now, and a lot of people are, and I highly recommend that right now to lead.
Are you on a complete news diet, or do you give yourself a little?
I try to read more than I watch. I never really watch the news. And I find if I watch news, that's where I nosedive much more quickly. If I read it, I can I find it more neutral than watching content. I don't know what it is. A lot of it's the reporting, right? Yeah. And I do have to manage that amount. I do, because I can, like anyone, start to be like, well, and that. And I'm like, well, what am I looking for right now? That's one of the questions I ask myself. What am I trying to find? Mm-hmm. Is there an answer that I think I'm going to get that's going to somehow make me feel okay? Because that's not where I want to get my answers from. I do not want to be looking to the news to get my answers about, am I okay or not?
Right. Right.
My okayness is inside of me. It's not in the external world. And that's true always. Even if I forget, it's true. And, I have a woman I'm coaching right now who's a leader in a business, and they had to take 800 people from being in office settings to working from home in 4 days. And not a small thing, right? And they are in the mortgage business. So you can imagine what that world is like right now. And her biggest challenge right now is how to assist her people in staying balanced as all of this unfolds. How do they stay productive? But how does she also just serve them as fellow humans who are home with families and sometimes they're up and down because they get scared. We all get scared. We're not going to hack fear right now. There's no hack. I can't tell anybody in the Whole Life Challenge, hey, there's no, what is it? The seven what is it?
Habits.
Yeah. There's not one that's don't feel fear.
No, I mean, right. Well, you know as well as anybody else, is the minute you say don't do this, what do?
Right.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
So it's impossible.
It's impossible. So right. I don't want to pretend that it's not a natural thing going on right now. Of course, we're going to feel afraid. And I don't want to make that wrong. And I also want to be like, whoa. When am I in? I'm sometimes the one in charge of how much I'm going to allow that in. Mm-hmm. Because when I put that down and I go spend time with my daughter or my husband or a client, I'm not in fear. I think one of the best things people can be doing right now, whether you're working or not, is find a way to be of service. That is hands down, for everyone I know, they feel better.
When you say that, what do you mean exactly? Do you mean help? You don't necessarily mean help somebody on the front lines.
No, unless you're in a position where you can. I mean, right. Drop toilet paper off at someone's house and don't tell them that could benefit from it. Send a DoorDash card as a gift. I did that last week. One of the things I'm doing right now is at least once a month, I'm sending flowers to someone.
That's cool.
Yeah, because flowers are really helpful right now. And everyone's trying to get their food needs met, which I totally respect, but flowers are an incredible thing to get right now.
Right.
So I'm looking for ways I can just be of service and brighten people's days.
That's cool.
And small ways and in big ways. And so to me, I'm like, let's everybody do it. Let's have a flower challenge where you can, and the other thing that does is it puts money in florists' pockets if you order online, right? So it's a double thing. Somebody gets flowers and someone gets money in their business.
Right. Yeah, so, no, I like that context of service. It's not what you might think it is. It's not like this altruistic go feed the homeless, no. Like where my brain, that's just me, but that's where my brain goes. There's a lot of ways to be of service, whether it's to your kids and spending time with them and helping them do schoolwork, or
I won't be doing that, but okay.
Could be of service if you're skilled at that and you've got,
totally
kids at home.
Totally.
So it really depends on your ability and your natural instincts.
And what you're drawn to.
Yeah.
It's like, in a way, you and Michael, the Whole Life Challenge is an incredible service right now, right? Because it puts everyone in a context of health and well-being, even while we're in this.
Right.
Which is incredible. It's such an incredible thing to do for people and for people to partake of.
Well, yeah, one of the things that you're talking about that reminds me of what we're talking about now with the 7 daily habits is the separation between what's happening and what's going on inside. And it reminds me, like, one of the things that the 7 habits, and whether they're the 7 habits or they're 4 habits or 2 habits, one of the things that they do is they allow you to gain some semblance of control over some part of your world. Because the stuff out there, for most of us, unless you're the governor or you're, the mayor or the president, you don't have a lot of control over. And even they don't have a lot of control over things that are happening outside of their world.
And the truth is, we never did.
Right.
See, I think what gets really challenging for people is for those of us who love the idea that we can control our calendars and our lives and our plans, and then something like this happens and it strips all that away, when the truth is we never had control anyway. And, for me personally, that became obviously much more front and center when my business partner became really ill. Like, the idea of control is a fallacy. And it's really, Dr. Mary Hulnick at the University of Santa Monica says control is the #1 addiction on the planet. #1. And I'm like, yep.
Wow, that's interesting.
#1. So we all can own it, right? Me, right, everybody. Right.
So even what I'm saying, like the idea that I want to have control over some part of my 7 daily habits is, obviously that makes me feel better.
Which is great.
That helps to give me some semblance of like, okay, I can meditate. Okay, I can journal. Okay, I can exercise. And I can do things that actually, in my little world, help to give me the idea that I do have some control.
Of course. And it's like, we're humans. We get to take care of ourselves, right? I know that if I am feeling good, I'm going to be better for the people around me.
Right.
And the people around me are seeing a whole lot of me right now. So I want to take care of myself so that, someone who I really respect and trust, a different faculty member at the University of Santa Monica, said something to me recently, and I thought it was so important. She said, the more uplifted we are in our lives right now, not fake, not like, oh, pretend, but truly, like, you're truly someone, Andy, who just naturally has a lot of joy and upliftment day to day. She said, that's one of the biggest contributions we can make right now in the midst of all this.
Is being that, right? Yeah. It's interesting because I find myself doing this. It's interesting. I've actually noticed a change in days. Like Mondays tend to be harder for me.
Interesting.
And by Fridays, I'm feeling much lighter, much freer, and then Sunday night rolls around and I'm like, uh-oh. And I don't know why, because like days are kind of morphing together.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting.
Well, I think it's really natural that there's kind of like this, like you said, there's an undercurrent of like, ooh, like it's like there's an uncomfortableness going on underneath everything right now in some ways.
Well, I find that uncomfortableness is all when I allow my brain to move to the future.
Oh, yeah.
What's going to happen? Where am I going to be? How is this going to turn out? It's funny. I had a vision this morning of the Terminator, the first movie with Sarah Connor. And I just thought, shit, I can figure this out. Like whatever happens, I mean, I may not be Sarah Connor because she's badass, but I can figure this out. Like it might not look anything like what my life looks like today. And guess what? I can still figure it out. And
I agree.
That brought me a lot of comfort.
Yeah.
But I still have to do work in pulling myself back from the future because that future thing is just running rampant right now,
Oh yeah. And I think that we all are in this massive, like adjusting to a different reality that some of us are fighting it, right? No, it's not okay to go to the grocery store and see people with masks on. No, I didn't sign up for this. And I listen a lot right now. I don't know if you've ever read her book called Conscious Parenting. It's Dr. Shefali Tsabari.
Oh, I listened to her. She's a little bit interesting. She's a little political, which drives me a little bit south.
Oh, I haven't.
She's very opinionated about, what the president's doing, and
Really?
and she doesn't hesitate to say it in her live stuff.
Okay, because the videos she's doing right now, just about what's happening, she talked a lot the other day about, we're like, this is not okay. It's not okay that I have to wear masks, but it's the same world that gave us our children, and it's the same world that gave us nature. It's like that we're like we're like picking and choosing. We're cherry picking.
Yeah.
Like this is not okay, and that is okay. And it's like, wow, like, and I see that in myself, right? When I was standing in line at a store, I was like, this can't be real. And I was like, Carolyn, like you're arguing with reality.
Right.
Like it is real. It's right there. And how am I going to make peace with this?
Yeah.
So that I can be okay in the world and not be another source of disturbance in the world. Like right now, and I think what you said is so important. Right now, I'm okay. Right now, you're okay.
Yeah.
Jumping out into the future, it's like, it's so not useful right now. I mean, the mind wants to, and all of our jobs is like, can I pull it back to just today?
Yeah.
Am I okay today?
Yeah. The other thing that has been occurring for me, or I've been thinking about, is how this global shared experience, there's a relatedness, like, and this is on the good side, I think, of this whole thing is, when I went through my training as a Marine, or when kids go through training in 2-a-days in football practice, or when you have these difficult times, that's a shared experience. There's this camaraderie that develops, and this togetherness that develops, that even when you look at it helps me to remember that as bad as it might look for me, it's just as bad, if not worse, for somebody else. We're all like I got no room to complain. Well, who am I going to complain to? The person down the street that has lost his job and you can't pay the mortgage. And so it's actually, in a weird way, comforting to be going through, like looking next to my buddy next to me who's suffering right alongside of me, and we're doing it together. And we're like, okay, we're in.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I also think it's a really important time to allow ourselves and our neighbors to have grief. I mean, I'm grieving a lot of the everydayness. My daughter is 12, and we were talking one night and I was crying, and I said, what do you miss? And this is hilarious. She said, I miss the mundane things, mommy.
Huh. Wow.
I miss the mundane things. And I was like, wow, who are you, by the way? But that's like, I miss going to get a cup of coffee, right? I miss, like,
what's mundane to a 12-year-old? What does that mean?
Well, I said to her, what does that look like? She's like, when you, like, I don't want to go out with you to walk Lily, our dog, and you make me come, and then I go, and then I'm glad, and then we stop and get something at the store.
Uh-huh.
I said, yep.
Like driving in the car, maybe.
Or like I miss taking my daughter to school and being irritated that I have to take her to school.
Right.
And it's okay to grieve. It's okay. Like, my grief is not like smaller than someone else's grief. It's like, grief is grief. Like, we don't want to compare griefs. And I'm not saying that that's the same as like losing someone to the virus, but grief, we're in not just a collective experience about life, we're in a collective grieving experience about loss.
Yeah.
And about adjusting and about accepting. And that's huge. And I agree, Andy. I mean, you know better than I, as a former Marine, that connects us too.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I resist wanting to be connected that way right now. Like, the last thing I want is to have this as a collective experience, but it is. And that in and of itself is powerful. It makes me think, suck it up, Buttercup. Like, to myself internally, like, because people are having it bad. Like, I can't imagine your client. I think of one of my friends who runs a company that's got 2,500 employees, and they do a lot of work in the sports world. And like, California governor just yesterday announced no more sports until 2021. Like, what does that mean? I don't want to talk to him. Like, I'm like, okay, I got nothing really to, I don't know.
What about just how are you?
Yeah, right. Well, right. I mean, I do know that I almost spilled my coffee. Whew. I do know that that's what I would start with.
Yeah. How you doing?
But yeah, like it's just like, okay, we're all in this.
We're all in this, and I don't want to shy away from the harder stuff in this, right? It's all hard on some level, and another level it doesn't feel hard, but I don't want to shy away from the hard stuff, right? And I mean, look, I don't know what the summer is going to bring, right? I don't know. And I agree. Like, I have to be careful with my own mind to be like, we're not going to go there yet. There's nothing to do. We don't know.
Right.
We don't know. And to me, people have this incredible opportunity. Like the people doing the whole life challenge now, I'm like, man, like it's so smart because it is a container where they can get support and be uplifted in their self-care and in their thinking and in their relating to their bodies and food. I mean, it's like, to me, it's such a great thing to be involved.
Well, there's also, when, as you're just saying that, I just thought of, there's this also collective experience in that.
I bet.
Like that's the collective experience that is actually desirable right now, because it's like we're all taking responsibility for our lives, and we're taking responsibility for just doing one thing each day that pulls us forward. And like, I find that if I do one thing that pulls me forward, it usually has a wake behind it, or a suction behind it, and it sucks other things with it.
It does.
Like I find when I do my morning mobility, that sucks me into a different mindset, and that changes my brain, and that changes my spirit, and it changes my attitude. And
it probably changes your food choices.
Some
of the time.
It does. No, I'm kidding. My food choices have been less than stellar though since the coronavirus hits.
Me too.
I'm allowing myself more comfort foods.
I think that's one of the biggest things that's been stripped away from us, right? Like comforts that we were used to, like old like habits and patterns. Yeah. Right. And I'm uncomfortable with that, but I also really appreciate that. Like, I'm like, wow, when are we ever going to be in a time where things that I thought were just mundane get stripped away, where the idea of like, is it really worth it to me to go buy a cup of coffee somewhere? Is that really important right now versus making it in my own house? Like that may seem to other people, like my husband's like, he makes coffee at home. He's not like, I'm like, oh, like going to a coffee shop and having a coffee made and handed to me. And I'm like, it's and I have mixed feelings about it, but that seems ridiculous. Right. But in the bigger context, everybody's facing this. And I don't want to diminish like people on the front lines. They're in more of like your Marine experience.
Yeah, a buddy of mine is a doctor at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City, and he sent us an email. He intentionally said, "Look, don't share this with anyone because there's some stuff in it that's just not comfortable." It was very reminiscent. The stuff that they're going through, him having to draft a will and send it to his teenage son who's in college in Wisconsin, like really real stuff that is. He's going through PTSD because he's having to separate families who are losing a loved one and not letting them go in and see their loved one. Like just some really horrific things that you don't even really, I mean, in war, it's almost, I would say it's a little easier maybe even because that's expected. This is like this invisible,
right.
We got this invisible enemy, and it's affecting people that are civilians who are not trained for this. They're not expecting this. They're not ready for this. And it's
interesting.
In a lot of ways harder than what you'd face in the military.
Right. And so it's like Andy, I don't begin to say like, oh, we can't possibly understand what's happening right now in a way. And then in a way that's a good thing, right? Like, I'm like, I don't have to know the deeper why of this is all happening. Like personally, my own spiritual foundation is such that this is for us. It's not against us. This is for all of us. I don't want to pretend to know why it's for someone else, but I know I get to decide, how am I going to use this, right? How am I going to use this in my life? And I live by 3 principles. It's like, take care of yourself so you can help take care of others. Don't hurt yourself and don't hurt others, and use everything for your learning, growth, and upliftment. And that means everything. I don't get to be like, except for this.
Right. Except the hard stuff.
Except, yeah. And I'm like, I'm not going
to. Or the stuff you've labeled as negative or bad.
Yeah.
Like it's all for growth. It's
all for growth. And that means that, like, I became such a deeper, more compassionate person through losing Michelle, right? That changed me in a way that I could never have predicted. And it's not like I'm like, ooh, I'm so glad that I lost my best friend and business partner, because look at me now. I don't mean it that way. Right. But it's like, it deepened me. And I remember when someone said to me, this is going to deepen you. And I'm like, okay, like that I can grab onto. And we all can grab onto that. This will deepen us if we let it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember last year I went through a lot of, I haven't really shared this before publicly other than in writing, but I went through a lot of emotional angst when the Whole Life Challenge, actually, we lost participants.
Right. I remember.
The challenge dropped. And I saw over the course of like 6 months, when I was going through this anxiety and panic and, real mental like anguish and emotional anguish, I saw 2 therapists at 2 different times, totally different context, totally different people. And I left both meetings with the same, they both said the same thing. What you're going through is beautiful. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, they just keep going, keep going. Like, there's another side. You're opening up, you're seeing, you're growing, you're learning about another side of you that didn't exist before. And the challenge will deepen you. And exactly what you said. And I think that's really, God, if I can remember that during this, that's huge.
And, our children who are missing, like Lucinda's missing her friends. Yeah. And I'm inside of me, I'm just like, I don't know how this is going to deepen all of them, but it will.
Yeah. Cause there's a part that, Julia was just saying yesterday, like, I feel so bad they're missing out. And I'm like, I immediately go to, well, what about the kids during the Holocaust that were citizens of Germany, Jews in Germany who lost their childhoods, lost their parents, like, it could be worse, right?
It could be worse.
So,
it could be worse.
We have Zoom. The kids can go on Zoom, and like Dash is having online conversations with his buddies, or FaceTime, or whatever.
Yeah.
So it could always be worse.
It could always be worse. And it's also okay to, like, because our children don't know, and we don't know what it's like to have been a Jew in the Holocaust.
Right.
I also still have a lot of compassion, right? I'm like, wow, it is a big loss. Like, my daughter's like, Mommy, I can talk to my friends, but I really miss hugging them. Now, she's a 12-year-old girl. Dashiell
is not hugging.
Right. They're not hugging.
You saw when we posted the pictures of what Lucinda said, and then what Dashill's like, punch today in the face.
Punch life in the face.
Punch life in the face. Like, would never come out of Lucinda's mouth.
No, but she's, I think children that are growing up right now, I am not a fan of people like, oh, wouldn't want to be a kid, wouldn't want to grow up with this kind of stuff. I'm like, nope, they are uniquely qualified for what they're facing. And I don't have to know what that means, but I'm like, they're amazing and they will be able to handle this, and we can help them.
Yeah,
we can help them. But I'm just so grateful, Andy. I just think, you are such a important light at this time. It's like, to me, it makes me so happy when you come up in my Facebook feed with your movement. I mean, I just laugh. I love that you are a voice for being real right now, for taking care of yourself. And you and Michael are just like, it's such an important thing for everybody. And I just appreciate how you show up in the world. Like your joy is so valuable right now, even if it's something about something simple, or if it's about something really deep and rich like this.
Well, thank you. I feel exactly the same way. Like your guidance and leadership and continuous reminder that this is for the benefit of us, not the detriment to us. No. This is happening for us, not to us. Is just it's so valuable for me today because it helps me pull myself through. And so I really appreciate your leadership and your guidance and wisdom, and for being on this call with me for exactly 30 minutes, because you got things to do and I got things to do, and so does everybody else in the world, right?
That's right. Right.
Thank you.
Anytime, Andy. Anytime. Right. And then I want to know what the ratings are on this.
Oh, I'll give you the ratings. I mean, I don't know if I got to figure out even how to do that, because this is a brand new thing. Where if people want to know more about you and like your stuff, where do they find you?
At my website, carolynfreyerjones.com, FreyerJones, all one word, carolynfreyerjones.com.
It'd be much simpler if you just dropped the Freyer, you just Carolyn Jones. I mean, that would be so much simpler.
It would be simpler. And it's not happening.
Yeah, I'm kidding. That'd be like asking Julia, my wife, to drop her name. Like, that's not happening.
Go, Julia.
Yeah. All right.
All right, my friend. Have a beautiful day, everybody.
Bye-bye. I don't know what happens when I hit end meeting. If you disappear or we just...
I might.
End live. Oh, wait, I can stop live. Here we go.